Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to watch The Amazing Spider-Man Part 2. If you haven't watched the first part, I will give you the link of first part in description. So without wasting any further time, let's get into it. We begin with Richard Parker deleting all the files from a computer in his laboratory and killing the spiders kept for experiments. He records a video message to explain his disappearance. He and his wife, Mary, then say goodbye to their son, little Peter Parker, and board a private jet. Richard starts backing up the evidence to make sure they remain safe, just in case something happens to them, and tells his wife that he is sending them to Roosevelt. Most probably a code word. There, they get targeted by an assassin disguised as the co-pilot and they take him down. The transfer of files is completed, but the struggle causes the plane to crash, which kills them. In the present, Spider-Man gets the information about an Oscorp truck carrying plutonium that has been hijacked by a criminal named Alexei Sitsevich and some other outlaws. He confronts Sitsevich and also saves an electrical engineer named Dylan in the process. In this chase, his girlfriend Gwen Stacy calls and tells him that he is going to be late for the graduation ceremony. Here, he sees a vision of Gwen's dad who died a heroic death. But Spidey still manages to trap the hijackers and secures the plutonium. Peter arrives late at his graduation and misses Gwen's speech. Gwen invites Peter to her family dinner 8 p.m. He gets the vision of her father again and remembers the promise he made with him during his death to protect Gwen by staying away from her. That night, he meets Gwen outside the restaurant and tells her about the visions he's been getting. He says he can't live by breaking the promise and acting like he's forgotten about it. So, Gwen breaks up with him. Meanwhile, it is Dylan's birthday. From the Sitsevich incident, he has accepted Spider-Man as his best friend and is imagining that Spider-Man has come to celebrate with him. Meanwhile, Spidey continues his patrolling, and it is seen that some of the citizens dislike his vigilante presence. In his room, every time he sees his father's briefcase, he gets frustrated as that thing isn't leading him to any findings of his father. Dylan is late to his office in the Oscorp Industries. He meets Gwen, who works as an intern there, and they introduce each other. Peter's childhood friend, Harry Osborn, returns to his home to see his terminally ill father Norman, CEO of Oscorp. Norman explains his disease is genetic and Harry is at the age where it first develops. Norman gives Harry a small device he claims contains his life's work. The next day, Norman dies and Harry is appointed the new Oscorp CEO and the news spreads all over. Dylan is ordered to correct a current flow problem that has appeared in an Oscorp lab. While working, he shocks himself by accident and falls into a tank of genetically engineered electric eels. The eels attack him and he dies. In the Oscorp board meeting, Harry appoints Felicia Hardy as his secretary. Peter comes to meet Harry to console him for his father's death and Harry becomes very happy because of the gesture. They both have a great conversation that day. Meanwhile, Donald Mencken finds out about Dylan's accident, which could mean a loss to Oscorp if the press finds out. So, he suggests covering the incident up. But Dylan wakes up from his deathbed and turns into a living electric generator. Gwen phones Peter for a meetup and he visits her in the evening. She tells him that they can try being friends, and Peter suggests they set some ground rules. Gwen puts forward some of her ground rules, and Peter puts forward some of his. She finds out that he has been watching out for her to know that she is safe. She tells him that she got her scholarship at Oxford University and she will be moving to England. Peter senses Dylan's presence in Times Square, so he leaves Gwen and heads there. Dylan wreaks havoc and the police surround him. Spider-Man also arrives. He tries calming Dylan down, but a sniper shot angers him and Dylan attacks the people, zapping one of Spidey's web shooters in the process. Peter saves the people from getting shocked and defeats Dylan. Peter determines to find out the connection between Roosevelt and his father from his briefcase. He also starts working with his webs to make them high voltage resistant. Meanwhile, the first symptoms of Harry's illness are showing and he uses the device Norman gave him to deduce that Spider-Man's blood could help save him. He calls Peter, who has been selling photos of Spider-Man to the Daily Bugle, and asks him to find Spider-Man for him. Peter feels hesitant, unsure of what effects the transfusion would have and the possibility of Harry suffering a mutation similar to Dr. Kurt Connor's. Didn't work out too well for him, did it? Meanwhile, Gwen is caught searching for Dylan's identity in the Oscorp database. While running from the security guards, Peter finds her and Gwen takes him to hide inside a closet. There the situation gets romantic. Peter gets out and distracts the security guards, and Gwen manages to run away. In the elevator she finds Harry and they have a talk. In the Ravencroft Institute where Dylan is held prisoner, Dr. Kafka reveals that he is going to study him. Dylan introduces himself as Electro and shows the terrific extent of his power. Aunt May finds out that Peter has been investigating his father's disappearance. Peter convinces her to tell him everything she knows. She reveals that 2 government officials came to their home 2 days after the funeral and told that Richard betrayed Norman and ran away to get rich through the experiments, which were very valuable. Peter is shocked with disbelief. In Harry's mansion, Spidey arrives and he still refuses the transfusion, much to Harry's frustration. He rushes to meet Gwen and she tells him that she is running late for her last interview for Oxford. He had come to say something to her but returned without saying anything except wishing her luck. An upset Peter throws everything in his room around and finds some coins hidden in the back of his father's calculator. He researches and finds out that there might be a connection of Richard to Roosevelt's secret train station. Felicia informs Harry that Mencken had extracted the venom from the spiders before destroying them. But Donald Mencken frames Harry for covering up Dylan's accident, removes him as CEO, and takes control of Oscorp. Peter uses information left by his father to locate the video message in the abandoned subway station's hidden lab. Richard explains in the video that Norman had made a deal with a foreign military to continue funding the research while he provided them with biological weapons in exchange. At Ravencroft Institute, Harry breaches the security to find Electro. He makes a deal with Electro saying if Electro gets him inside Oscorp, he will allow him access to the power grid of the whole city and then they will get revenge on Spiderman. Electro accepts and kills Dr. Kafka. Peter gets a voicemail from Gwen telling him that she was offered the scholarship and is heading to the airport earlier than expected. Harry and Electro barge inside the Oscorp building and threaten Mencken to inject him with spider venom while Electro takes care of the power grid. Mencken takes Harry to the classified section and injects him with the spider venom. It accelerates his illness and almost kills him, but one of the suit's built-in emergency protocols restores his health. Meanwhile, Peter professes his love for Gwen and they agree to go to England together. At the same time, Electro causes another blackout. This causes great trouble for the air traffic controllers since 2 planes are about to collide. Spidey makes his webs resistant with the help of Gwen's knowledge and heads off to battle. Before going, he tells Gwen to stay away from the battle. Spidey starts fighting Electro and Gwen arrives in the meantime. She helps Peter overload Electro's body with power and he explodes, thereby restoring power in the city. The planes avoid colliding in time. Harry arrives in his Green Goblin suit equipped with Norman's armor and weaponry in the power station. Upon seeing Gwen and Spiderman together, he deduces that Spiderman is actually his friend, Peter. Being vengeful for the refusal of the blood transfusion, he kidnaps Gwen and takes her to the top of the clock tower, and Spidey tries to stop him. Harry tries to kill Gwen and Spidey keeps saving her from falling. Harry keeps attacking Spidey while he holds Gwen with just a single web. But a collapsing series of clock gears causes the web to snap and Gwen falls down. Spidey defeats Green Goblin and catches her with a web, but Gwen's head hits the floor. She dies on the spot. Peter grows depressed as the season changes and he begins to neglect his duties as Spider-Man. Few months later, we see a person named Gustav Fiers visit Harry Osborn, who is being held prisoner in Ravencroft. He is seen coping with the aftereffects of his transformation. The pair discuss forming their own team and Harry orders Fiers to find the equipment he requires from Oscorp. Fiers suggests the first in the team to be Alexei Sitsevich. Peter hears the news of Sitsevich's prison break but ignores it. But then, he becomes inspired by Gwen's graduation speech and decides to return as Spiderman. Sitsevich rampages through the streets with an electromechanical suit of armor he gained from the Oscorp. He names himself the Rhino. With no one to stand against him, a kid confronts him in his Spider-Man suit. Immediately after, Peter Parker, the real Spider-Man, arrives at the scene. Spidey and Rhino then jump into battle. And that was the Amazing Spider-Man duology. So tell me your opinions about this movie in comments section. Our next movie will be Spider-Man Homecoming. So subscribe to channel to stay notified for more Spider-Man. Goodbye.